there was a Chinese balloon flying or drifting over the country. I don't have a sense of the size of it, but it was...
well, they just got shot down, so they're going to look into the little pieces.
They'll look into the little pieces and see what it was. The conventional wisdom seems to be that it's a Chinese surveillance balloon. The Chinese government has said that it was a weather balloon, and that it was silly for the U.S. to shoot it down. And I'm sure that if it was a surveillance balloon, it's not really capable of getting far more information than one would get if you were using a satellite, which of course the Chinese are doing, just as we are doing. I suspect it is really just sort of a way for the Chinese to test our defenses. Apparently, there were 3 of these during the Trump years, and accordingly, none of the Trump administration seems to be aware of it, or they've all forgotten about it in some weird way. But here is Marco Rubio, one of the China hawks.
Mm-hmm.
China.
Because, communism.
Exactly. And this is an attempt, this is the way that neocons will push for further military engagement with China. And
the Biden administration is helping neocons in that regard, I would say.
It's certainly not, they're certainly not hurting they're certainly not like, a huge bulwark against this. But here is Marco Rubio.
It over the sky, and the message they were trying to send is what they believe internally, and that is that the United States is a once great superpower that's hollowed out, that's in decline. And the message they're trying to send the world is, look, these guys can't even do anything about a balloon flying over U.S. airspace. How can you possibly count on them?
Pause it for 1 second. The best part of him saying that is literally the image of the balloon being shot down by a jet. As he's saying, they can't do anything about it.
Or the best part might be that image being so fitting in so nicely to his description of the United States, or their perception of the United States as a hollowed out empire that can't do anything. Because that's kind of the case. Like, we are a hollowed out empire. We can't provide for our citizenry. The only thing we can do is expand military bases and spending. That's the only function that the United States has right now as a superpower.
But we did shoot the balloon down, and that was, of course, off the coast of South Carolina, because you don't want to shoot the balloon down over a place where people could actually get hurt underneath it. But go ahead.
It over the sky, and the message they were trying to send is what they believe internally, and that is that the United States is a once great superpower that's hollowed out, that's in decline. And the message they're trying to send the world is, look, these guys can't even do anything about a balloon flying over U.S. airspace. How can you possibly count on them if something were to happen in the Indo-Pacific region? How can you count on them if they're not going to do anything about a balloon over U.S. airspace? How are they going to come to the aid of Taiwan or stand with the Philippines or Japan or India when the Chinese move on their territories? So I think that that's really the key part here, is they knew exactly what they were doing, and there was a message behind it.
But the balloon was shot out of the sky. What do you mean? I mean, the balloon was taken down.
Yeah, and I think they understood that ultimately that would probably be what could happen, and then they would make this other statement about, oh, the U.S. is overreacting, it's just a weather balloon, look how silly they got. That's part of it as well. But what they know the world is going to see is you have a balloon that entered through Alaska, traversed everywhere from Idaho and Montana, across the Midwest, over some of the most sensitive. I mean, look at the flight path that this thing took. It's not coincidental. It went over ICBM fields, some of the most sensitive military sites we have, and then exited the southeast of the United seaboard of the United States and into the ocean. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. When was it spotted? Why was it not brought down sooner over other areas? I'm open-minded to listening to the arguments they make about why wasn't it dealt with sooner. But my point about, you asked about China's comments, this is what they wanted the world to see, that they could send a balloon at 60,000 feet over U.S. airspace, over military facilities, and that we would be unable to stop it. And then ultimately, when we shoot it down, if we did, they would argue, look how they overreact to a weather balloon, which obviously is not what it is.
So to be clear, I guess he's just mad that it wasn't shot down over the U.S. But I mean, I think the Chinese pretty clearly get the idea that we have the ability to shoot a balloon down.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world gets the idea that we can shoot down a balloon. But also, one could argue that we seem more confident and that we're not worried about a balloon flying over us and what it is that the Chinese think that they're going to see from 60,000 feet up that would be of any material help for them, so much so that we didn't feel it worth possibly endangering people on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, China has the understanding that we have the capacity to pop a balloon. Like, we could just get a pin out and we would be able to pop the I mean, I'm joking around, but I do think the timing's interesting. After Lloyd Austin just negotiated those 4 reopened military bases in the Philippines.
Yep.
Then there's a balloon that comes over. Then Blinken makes this whole show about canceling his meeting with Xi Jinping. I don't know. It seems like the only bipartisan consensus right now in Washington is China hawkery. This whole pivot there is concerning, and the Biden administration's leading the charge, but at the same time, then there's a whole party that's much more extreme on this kind of stuff, with guys like Marco Rubio saying you're not doing enough. Like, what would be enough here? I don't know. I think it's concerning, the amount of escalation in rhetoric towards China.
I think we really, if we're really going to look at this seriously, we need to have thought about like why we didn't nuke the balloon.
You're right.
We should have dropped a nuclear weapon on the balloon, maybe.
Hey Sam, Emma, how's it going? This
Good.
is Billy, originally from Jacksonville, now living in San Diego.
Billy from those multiple places. What's on your mind?
Sorry. You guys were talking earlier about the Chinese balloon situation. I kind of had a personal story I kind of want to throw in. Former Navy vet, specializing in intel and communications. And I was, at the time, going to DLI, the Defense Language Institute, for Mandarin Chinese. So I kind of had a personal knowledge of the clown show that it is Chinese American military tactics and all that fun stuff. But this was back a couple years ago on deployment, and we were doing kind of a showboaty, spy on the Chinese kind of thing. Like, we were trying to do a lot of silent running. That means like no outwards communications and things like that. And I don't know, because I personally think that a lot of the intel that we get is just either nonsense or people who have no idea what they're talking about, learning about this stuff and thinking, oh yeah, that makes total sense. So being an IT guy, I would have, chiefs, officers, all these people telling me like, oh, we got to be careful, like no Bluetooth on the ship, no Wi-Fi or anything like that. And I would ask, like, why? And they go, oh, the Chinese now have satellites that can read Bluetooth from ships. And to any tech person out there, the bandwidth or the signal range of Bluetooth is about 20 feet. Like, no way in hell a satellite can catch a signal going that far, like, at all.
How would they
high-level
do that?
people.
I was just trying to think, like, how would you...
It's physically impossible.
Could a satellite even get Wi-Fi? Could a satellite get Wi-Fi?
Well,
if it's connected to a big enough tower, but like we're out in the middle of the ocean.
No,
like,
WiMAX I could understand maybe, but like a home Wi-Fi situation, or like that seems
that
weird.
level of paranoia but that seems part and parcel.
But it is that level of stuff, and like the whole balloon situation. More than likely, we knew the balloon was coming. Like, it probably was just over there. Somebody saw, like, oh yeah, there's a balloon. And then, some enlisted guy at his little comm station or radar station saw it and was like, oh, I guess I got to report this. And then it goes up the chain.
Of course we knew the balloon was coming. Of course.
Yeah. Like,
are we like not capable of of course we knew it was coming.
Yeah. It just got seen by people on the ground, and the Biden administration had this upcoming meeting with China, and they wanted to, they pivoted and said, we'll capitalize on it.
Yeah. No, and it's just that kind of goofy stuff all the time, because like on the surface level, like especially being in the Navy, and like we're passing by these guys all the time. Like the moment we pass, the national timeline or whatever, like of course the Chinese know where we are, and they don't need like fancy Bluetooth scanning equipment. They have cameras mounted on satellites, so they already know where we are.
Right.
And just this level of like crazy, because honest to God, it's like I said, it is a clown show. It's a bunch of people who either aren't tech savvy or not new, like, internet savvy, like just trying to figure this stuff out. And when you do have, ground level intel people who say, yeah, no, like, because one of the things I was learning doing language school is like, we also had to learn about culture and politics. Like you can't really speak the language if you don't know the culture and all that. And it's like, guys, it's the same level thing. Like there's no, like you're saying, the conspiratorial stuff just isn't there. It's just two groups of people that like, hey, we just want our piece of the pie. Yeah. But you kind of have to get like this cultural, essentially, like you said, like a Cold War all over again, but now making it, yellow scare kind of shit.
My sense is that like there's two levels to this, right? There's all the sort of like paranoia that's ginned up to create it, but ultimately, like literally the vast majority of this are just pawns that are really like meaningless. It really just becomes like you have different forces that are trying to push agendas that range from, we need to, that cut across the spectrum of like, what should our relationship with China be? What should our relationship with manufacturing? How much of our manufacturing, how much of our economies should they be tied in together? How much of an advantage should we have over them? And the spectrum ranges, and different players on that spectrum are trying to win this battle. And so moments like these are opportunities for people who are trying to, win the battle, which says that we should be more aggressive with China and we should be in a sort of a Cold War with China, maybe a hot war with China. And so all of this stuff is just like, who's going to take advantage of it at one point or another, and how is it going to, the work that you are doing, if the center of power wanted to hold off a conflict with China, that work could be interpreted as doing that, right? By staving off those people who are worried about China. But if the powers that be want to instigate a conflict with China, that work could be reinterpreted in the exact same way.
Yeah. And just kind of like a final note, and then I'll finish up. But if anybody's familiar with the film Dr. Strangelove, it's like that one Air Force general who started the entire thing because of, the Soviets stealing his bodily fluids. You'd be shocked how many more people like him exist in the military. Yeah. Like I said, it is a clown show level of like people not really kind of reading the room kind of stuff. But I just wanted to say that. Appreciate you guys on the show. And yeah.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
No problem.